Hello everyone and welcome to my video lecture. This video is everything about viruses. Okay, looking at the current situation which is going on, the lockdown because of the coronavirus. So see, viruses have gained a lot of spotlight in the recent 2-3 months, and the thing is that it's good that people are becoming aware of things which are pathogenic. Okay, viruses are pathogenic, that means they're disease causing, but there is a lot of misconception about viruses. Okay, so let's try and clear a few misconceptions, and in the process let us learn more about what a virus exactly is and how it affects organisms, and basically how it affects the human body. Okay, so let's start with that. So first of all, let us write down the word which is concerned over here. So the word is virus. Okay, so what exactly is a virus? So now see, the thing is, when we talk about viruses, mostly many people talk about viruses in the same breath as that of other microorganisms like bacteria. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you this, that a virus is not supposed to be in the same category as an organism which is causing a disease. Okay, there is a difference between a virus and a microorganism. First of all, a microorganism, say for example a bacterium, if it is causing a disease, then that bacterium is a living thing. Please remember this, it is a living entity. Okay, it has got a cell, it has got a cell membrane, and it has got many properties, and that because of that, that bacterium is classified as a living thing. However, when we talk about viruses, then a virus, there is a lot of confusion whether it is supposed to be a living thing or it is a non-living thing, because every living thing has certain properties, okay, because of which we consider that particular thing as living. For example, take for example us. Okay, so why are we alive? First of all, we get hungry, right? So we need food. Then there is a digestive system which digests the food. There is an excretory system which removes the nitrogenous waste. There is a nervous system. There is a reproductive system. So bacteria might not have all these complex systems, but these same things are very very simplified in bacteria. So a bacteria does require nutrition, it does require food, it does remove the waste molecules which are produced. Okay, so a bacteria is a living thing, whereas if you look at viruses, then viruses do not require food, they do not eat anything, they do not require any sort of nutrition. Since there is no nutrition, there is no digestion, there is no excretion, there is nothing like circulatory system. Okay, there is no nervous system, there is no respiration as well. Viruses do not require oxygen. Are you getting my point? The only thing because of which people feel that viruses can be considered as living things is because they replicate. Okay, so I am not going to use the term reproduce. Okay, because reproduction is slightly different, replication is slightly different. Viruses replicate or multiply, and they cannot do it themselves, they use the host cell for that purpose. Okay, and because a virus doesn't have most of the properties which all living organisms should have, a virus is considered to be, so I'm going to write this down, it is considered to be on the threshold of life. Okay, what do you mean by this sentence, threshold of life? It is on the boundary of living and non-living. So you cannot say that it is living, neither can you say that it is non-living. So I hope this first point is clear. Viruses are not microorganisms. That is why the most common system of classification, the 5-kingdom classification system, okay, if you see that system, in that viruses are not classified anywhere because we do not consider them as completely living entities. Okay, you can probably say that they are partially living, partially non-living, but they are not considered as completely living entities. So I hope this is clear. Okay, second thing, what is a virus made up of? What is the general structure of a virus? Okay, so there are many different kinds of viruses. Plant viruses which infect plants, animal viruses which infect animals, and there are viruses which also infect bacteria. Okay, and these are called as bacteriophage. So I'll write down the word over here. Okay, I had used this word in my previous lecture. Okay, so bacteriophage is a virus which infects the bacterium. Okay, so there are many different types of viruses. Now what is the structure of a typical virus? So I'm just going to draw it over here. Now please remember, a virus is not having a cell. Okay, so you might hear many people saying that a virus is a single cell. No, a virus is supposed to be acellular. What do you mean by the term acellular? Acellular means that it is not made up of a cell. It doesn't have a cell membrane. What is a cell membrane? Suppose if I am drawing a bacterium over here, okay, suppose if this is the cell of a bacterium, then the bacterium is covered by a cell membrane. Okay, then it is covered by a cell envelope. All these layers are present, but a virus will not have this boundary. Okay, so that is why we say that a virus is acellular. Okay, so what is the general structure? First of all, the core of the virus, okay, in the center of the virus is present the genetic material. So I can write it down like this, that a virus is made up of two main things. First is genetic material, and the second thing is proteins. So these are the only two things which are required. Genetic material may be in the form of DNA or RNA. Okay, so it can be DNA or it can be RNA. Some viruses are retroviruses. That means they can change their genetic material from RNA to DNA when they are inside the host. Okay, we'll come to that later on. The DNA can be of two types. It can be single stranded. Okay, so I'm writing SS. It can be double stranded. RNA can be single stranded. It can be double stranded. So I'm just trying to give you some information. Anyway, let us leave all this aside and just let us try to sketch the structure of a virus. Okay, so you know what exactly it is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this orange color and just imagine this is the genetic material. Okay, let us suppose that this is a single stranded DNA which is completely coiled, and around that is present a layer of protein. Okay, so this is your protein layer. Okay, and this is your DNA, which is your genetic material. Correct? And this, friends, is the most simple representation of a virus. So a virus has got protein and it has got genetic material in the form of DNA or RNA. Okay, there is no cell membrane, there are no organelles present. Membrane bound organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, ER, Golgi, all those are absent. Okay, now some viruses which are more complex, they may have more protein covers. Okay, these protein layers are also called as capsid. So that is another word which is used, capsid. So capsid is the protein covering the genetic material of the virus. Now if we go slightly into detail, then these proteins of the virus, they are covered by more proteins. Okay, and these basically attach to the surface on the cell. Okay, so these structures which I am drawing, these are also called as glycoprotein. Okay, and these are the structures present on the virus which help the virus to attach to the host cell. What do I mean by a host cell? A host cell is any cell into which the virus is going to cause the infection. Okay, so for attachment it needs this glycoprotein. Okay, and please remember that the disease causing ability of the virus, okay, a good word for that is pathogenicity. So I will write it down. Pathogenicity means the disease causing ability of any organism. So pathogenicity is because of these proteins which are present. Please remember, these proteins are causing the disease, these proteins are causing the toxicity. Okay, so that is what gives the virus their power. Is this clear? I hope this structure of a virus is clear. Very simple structure. Okay, now how do this virus infect the host cell? Okay, what happens when they are outside the host cell? Now there are many different routes through which viruses are transmitted. Okay, mostly through contact, through air. For example, many of the viruses which are called as rhinoviruses. So again, a new word, so I'm just going to write it down. Rhinoviruses. What are rhinoviruses? So in biology or in medical terms, rhino is anything related to your nose. So rhinoviruses are the viruses which cause common cold. Okay, they mainly cause upper respiratory system disorders. Okay, so rhinoviruses are the viruses which cause cold. Okay, so now how will these rhinoviruses affect human beings? So what is the mode of action? So the viruses are in air. Okay, you will breathe them, correct, and they will enter your respiratory system. What happens inside your respiratory system? So let us have a look at that. I'll just rub this off. Okay, so now the virus is inside your body, correct? Now just imagine that this is the cell of your body, a normal cell. Okay, and this is the virus which is coming. Obviously the virus is much smaller in size. Over here I want to show the details of the virus, so I am drawing it larger. Okay, but it is much smaller in size. Now, so these are the glycoproteins which I am trying to show of the virus. Okay, then this is the genetic material which is present, and this cell is your body cell, so I will write down human cell. Okay, this is the virus. So now what is going to happen is, now this membrane is the cell membrane, correct? Each of our cells are covered by a membrane which is called as a cell membrane or plasma lemma or plasma membrane. Many synonyms are there. Now when we actually zoom in onto our human cell, then the membrane which is present, okay, so I'm just drawing a zoomed up version of this membrane which is there. This membrane also has got receptors. Okay, so there are receptors which are present like this. Okay, and the entire membrane of our cells are covered by these receptors. Now what are receptors? Receptors are structures which are present to collect substances. For example, you must have heard about hormones. Okay, hormones are basically proteins, and they are basically signals sent by the body to the target organ. For example, you must have heard of insulin. So insulin is a hormone which allows blood glucose to enter the cell. Okay, so suppose if you have eaten and your blood glucose level is high, so what your body does is it releases insulin, and that insulin allows the blood glucose to enter the cell. Now how does that happen is, see that insulin which is there, suppose if I am showing insulin with blue color and these are the insulin molecules, then that insulin will go and attach to the specific receptor on the cell membrane. Okay, and when it attaches to the receptor, what happens is there is a physiological change in the cell. This cell membrane undergoes a physiological change, and because of that what happens is this membrane now becomes semi-permeable and it can allow the glucose molecules to come inside. Okay, so basically what is the function of the receptors? the receptors are substances to allow chemical messengers to bind to them, so that whatever message the body wants to transmit to the cell, that message can be transmitted. Now what happens is, these glycoproteins which are present on the virus, okay, so now let me rub this off, okay, and let me draw the receptors here itself. So these are the receptors present on your cell membrane. Now what is going to happen is, these glycoprotein present on the virus, they also attach very well with the receptors on our cell, okay. And what happens is, that is how virus is attached to the target cell. So what is going to happen is, this virus is going to attach to our cell membrane by attaching this glycoprotein with the receptor. So what is going to happen is, you are going to have a virus with its glycoprotein attached to the membrane by the help of the receptor. And once this virus gets attached, that is when it starts its action. So I hope this is clear, okay. So I hope everybody has understood what receptors do. Receptors are not meant for attachment with viruses. Receptors are meant for attachment with hormones or enzymes or other chemical messengers. But when viruses enter our body, they make use of these receptors and their glycoproteins, okay. These glycoproteins are designed in such a way that they can be complementary to a receptor and they can bind. Are you understanding this fact? Now what happens next is, there can be two things. So first thing which can happen is, so first case is, the virus itself enters the host cell. Now this is the host cell, okay. So first possibility is, when the glycoprotein connects with the receptor, the changes will occur, and because of that, the virus forces itself inside the host cell. The entire virus will go inside the cell. The second possibility is that the entire virus doesn't enter the host cell, it just injects its genetic material into the host cell, okay. So only the genetic material enters. So in the first possibility, this entire virus will be inside the host cell, okay. In the second possibility, suppose if we are showing another virus over here, then what that virus is going to do is, these are the glycoproteins which are present, okay. Now what it is going to do is, the genetic material, it is going to push inside the cell. So it is going to inject that, and only the genetic material is going to enter the cell, okay. So this is the viral genetic material which has entered the cell, and the empty protein part of the virus which is remaining outside, that is of no use now, okay. And that normally it is called as a ghost, okay. So if you have heard about this term ghost, if you have heard about the Hershey-Chase experiment on bacteriophage, then you must have read about this term. So a ghost is basically an empty virus. What do you mean by an empty virus? An empty virus is a virus which doesn't have genetic material at all. It only has all that capsid and glycoproteins present, okay. Now when this viral DNA goes inside the host cell, then this viral DNA, it will capture the DNA of the host cell, okay. So just assume this is the nucleus, okay, and inside the nucleus, obviously the genetic material in human beings is also DNA. So the DNA is present. Obviously the DNA is present in a very condensed state called as chromosomes, but finally all chromosomes are DNA. So just assume that this is the DNA which is present inside your nucleus. What is going to happen is that this viral DNA is then going to enter the nucleus of your cell, and it is going to capture the nucleus of the cell. Are you getting me? Why is the viral DNA capturing your DNA? Why is it capturing your nucleus? Because the nucleus is the head of the cell, correct? A nucleus basically controls all the organelles of the cell. See, your cell is a miniature factory, correct? Cell has got many organelles, ribosomes are present, they produce factories. Okay, endoplasmic reticulum is present, which function as a network of pathways. Golgi complex is present, which functions as a packaging organelle, okay, which modifies all the components or the structures which enter it. Okay, there are lysosomes which are present, which are useful in digestion. So there are many organelles, and together a cell is like a mini factory. But what happens is when the viral DNA captures your nucleus, so this viral DNA will now begin to multiply and it will capture this, and because of that what happens is all the other organelles which are present in the cell are now controlled by the viral DNA. So it is like your cell has been hijacked. Your factory which you were controlling earlier is now being controlled by someone else. So what is going to happen? That someone else who has now taken over the factory is going to produce the things which that person requires. So this viral DNA will now tell all the other organelles to produce things which are required by the virus itself. It is not going to produce things which are required by the cell, which are required by your cell. I hope you are getting this point. Okay, so what happens is the ribosomes get a message to produce proteins, but in this case the ribosomes are not going to produce the normal body proteins, they are going to produce the viral proteins. What will happen to the viral proteins? The viral proteins will combine together. Genetic material, the DNA, the viral DNA will replicate, and what is going to happen is over a course of time many viruses will be formed inside your cell. Okay, they will be assembled inside the host cell, and a certain point will come when they will basically burst the entire cell, and when the cell bursts all these viral particles or all these viruses will be released. So that is called as lysis of the cell, and when lysis occurs all these particles come out and then they invade the other normal cells of your body. Are you getting this? Okay, so this is somewhat called as a lytic cycle. Okay, lysis is breaking, lytic cycle is how viruses invade the cell. So this is the second case when the genetic material is inserted into the host cell. What happens if the entire virus goes? Then if the entire virus enters the cell, then what will happen is the protein layers are removed, and again the same thing happens. The DNA of the virus, okay, it takes control of your nucleus, your DNA, and once it controls your DNA, that means it can control the cell. It will produce the things which it requires, and it will assemble proteins, okay, and these proteins, it will assemble viruses, and these viruses will then lyse the cell. Is this clear? So this is basically the mechanism by which most of the viruses work. In fact, all the viruses work. Now over here, if you see, I have used the example of DNA as the genetic material. Okay, now there are certain viruses which are also called as retroviruses. What are retroviruses? So retroviruses are the viruses which have RNA as genetic material. So now, can you tell me or can you explain this to me? If retroviruses have RNA as genetic material, so just imagine this blue colored thing is RNA. That RNA will be injected inside your host cell, inside our cell. So how will RNA capture DNA? Because RNA in our body is non-genetic. Okay, mRNA, rRNA, tRNA are all non-genetic RNAs, and only DNA is genetic in our body. So how can RNA take control over DNA? I'll give you a moment to think. Do you think in any way you can convert, the virus can convert that RNA into DNA? Okay, have you heard about the process called as transcription? Let us rub this off. Okay, has anybody heard about transcription? See, when our normal cell produces proteins, okay, there are two processes which occur. Okay, there's one process is called transcription, the other is called translation, and I am not going to go much into detail. Transcription is a process in which the DNA is used to form a complementary RNA strand, and this process is called as transcription. This is a process which normally occurs inside the nucleus of our normal cell. Okay, and then what happens is this RNA undergoes translation to form proteins that occurs in the cytoplasm. Now what happens with retroviruses is, now again the retrovirus, so imagine this is the virus, this is the RNA which is the genetic material. Okay, these are the glycoproteins which are present on the virus. Okay, this is your normal body cell surface, so I'm just drawing a side view. Then we have to show the receptors, so these are your membrane receptors. What is going to happen is this virus is going to attach to the receptor with the help of its glycoprotein. We know that. Then what is the next step? The next step is going to be the same. This RNA which is present, this RNA will be injected inside your membrane. So your RNA has gone inside the cytoplasm of your cell. Correct? And over here, which color should I use? I'll use the yellow color again. This is your nucleus, and inside the nucleus is present your DNA. Now what happens is, once the RNA is released, see again two possibilities, the entire virus may go into the cell or it may release just the RNA. Now when the RNA enters the cytoplasm, what happens is RNA undergoes a process called as reverse transcription. Very important to know this. So I'm just going to write down this in bold. Reverse transcription. What do you mean by reverse transcription? Reverse transcription is a process by which the viral RNA gets converted into DNA. See, transcription means DNA converted into RNA. Reverse transcription will be opposite of that, RNA converted into DNA. But again, then you might have a question that for transcription we require an enzyme. Okay, for transcription we require an enzyme called as DNA dependent RNA polymerase, because the enzyme is dependent on DNA to form RNA, which is also called as transcriptase. Okay, very simple word we'll use. Transcriptase enzyme is required for transcription. Now you need to convert RNA into DNA. So which enzyme will you require? The name of the enzyme is reverse transcriptase. So this RNA uses an enzyme called as reverse transcriptase. Now where does this reverse transcriptase come from? Is it present in your cell? No. So that reverse transcriptase is present in the virus itself. So what happens is that reverse transcriptase and RNA both are injected, and inside the host cell, that reverse transcriptase converts this RNA into DNA. So I am just showing DNA with the help of other color. So this is DNA and this is your RNA, and now you have the viral DNA because the virus has converted the RNA into DNA. Now what will the DNA do? That DNA will enter your nucleus, and what it is going to do is, so I use the wrong color. So what it is going to do is, it is going to capture your DNA, and again it is going to capture your entire cell, and then so on and so forth. The Lytic cycle I have already told you. Interesting. So what are retroviruses? These are the viruses which have RNA as genetic material, but when they enter your cell, they can convert that RNA into DNA so that that viral DNA can merge with the DNA of your cell and it can control it. Okay, there are many examples of retroviruses. Okay, rhinoviruses are mostly retroviruses. One of the most lethal viruses, okay, the HIV virus. Okay, that HIV virus is also a retrovirus. Okay, one of the reasons why a permanent cure for AIDS is not available is because HIV is a retrovirus. See, nowadays there are treatments. Okay, there is a treatment called as highly active antiretroviral therapy, HAART. So I'll just mention it over here. So HAART, this is a treatment for AIDS, highly active antiretroviral therapy. But this therapy works only if the virus is identified in very early stages. If a considerable amount of time has passed, then this doesn't work. Okay, so because of the HIV virus being a retrovirus, it continuously changes its genetic material even when outside the cell. So that is why it is very difficult to develop a vaccine against the HIV virus, and that is why AIDS is an incurable disease. Okay, it is not completely curable, especially at later stages. So I hope you have understood. Okay, some viruses have only RNA. Okay, they do not use reverse transcriptase, but still they are able to capture your cell. Do you know of any virus which is an RNA virus? So okay, now I have told you what retroviruses are. Let me tell you of another category of viruses which are also called as RNA viruses. So let us write it over here. What is a RNA virus? See, a retrovirus is also an RNA virus, but a retrovirus changes its RNA into DNA inside the host cell. Now, RNA viruses, some of them, they do not use reverse transcription at all. Okay, they go inside the host cell as RNA, and the RNA doesn't get converted into DNA, yet it captures the host cell. Now can you tell me how is that possible? Just think for a moment. Till then I'll just sketch the virus. So virus, okay, glycoproteins, this is the RNA, correct? This is the host cell, correct? I will show it already attached to a receptor. So these are the receptors present on your cell membrane. Now this RNA will be inserted inside the cell, correct? Once it is inserted inside the host cell, what is going to happen? Now this RNA will not use reverse transcriptase. Okay, these RNA viruses, some of them, they do not have reverse transcriptase. So what happens? How will they capture your nucleus? This is your nucleus over here, and inside the nucleus is present your DNA. So how is this RNA going to capture this DNA? How is that going to happen? So what happens after transcription? After transcription, normally in your cell, when transcription occurs, DNA is converted and RNA is formed from DNA, right? A messenger RNA is formed, and that messenger RNA goes out into the cytoplasm and it is translated by tRNA and ribosomes, and proteins are formed. So I hope everybody is aware about protein synthesis. Okay, for those who are not aware, please, I'm going to make separate video lectures for transcription and translation, but this is covered at school level. So in translation, what happens is RNA goes into the cytoplasm and it is forming proteins. Now what these RNA viruses do is they remain as RNA and they behave like messenger RNAs. So what happens is these messenger RNAs, they themselves get translated to produce viral proteins. So finally viral proteins are produced, viruses are assembled. Okay, so are you getting this point? So they stay in the cytoplasm and they act as messenger RNA, and your body considers them as messenger RNA and it translates them and it produces viral proteins. Why does it produce viral proteins? Because the sequence on this RNA is the sequence of amino acids on the viral protein, so it will produce viral proteins. And again, what will happen? Viruses will assemble, they will lyse the cell, and they will all come out and they will go and infect other cells. So please remember, the best example of an RNA virus which doesn't use reverse transcriptase is the COVID-19 virus. Please remember this. So COVID-19 virus is the virus which doesn't use reverse transcriptase. It doesn't undergo reverse transcription. It remains as an RNA and it gets translated as it is. Do you get me? So very smart indeed. So I hope this mode of action is clear. For DNA viruses, it is very simple. Just invade the nucleus, control the cell. For retroviruses, the RNA which is inserted in the cell needs to be converted into DNA by a process called reverse transcription, and then they will invade the nucleus. For RNA viruses which do not undergo reverse transcription, very simple, just stay and act like messenger RNA in the cytoplasm, get translated, form proteins, job done. Are you getting me? So this is how most of the viruses function, okay, and that is how they are causing diseases and they are causing deaths. So now, how do you stop them? How does the body stop them? So if you are suffering from common cold, okay, then do you keep on suffering from that throughout your life, or it just occurs for a limited amount of time? So normally common cold stays at the maximum for a period of 1 month, say 2 to 3 weeks, and then it goes. So what happens? Does the virus leave your body, or the virus has become weak? So the virus doesn't leave the body. So many people tend to think that, oh, okay, so after a certain period of time the virus will leave your body. No, the virus will not leave your body. It has not got legs or locomotory organs to travel. The virus will stay there, but your defense system, okay, the white blood cells which are present in your body, your defense system will make sure that they overpower the virus till that time. And the chemicals which are produced to stop a virus are called as antibodies, okay. Now, how do these antibodies work? Okay, so basically the effect of antibodies or the action of antibodies is very simple. This is your normal cell. Again, these are your receptors present on your normal cell membrane, correct? So first way in which these antibodies can work is by binding to these receptors, okay. So the receptors which are present, if they are first blocked by the antibodies, then the viral glycoproteins cannot bind to the receptors. So normally whenever you will be studying about antibodies, the antibodies are basically a Y-shaped structure, okay. So they are Y-shaped like this, and what happens is these antibodies go and bind to the receptors of your cell only, so that the viruses cannot bind to the cell membrane and thereby cannot cause infection. The second way in which antibodies can stop the viruses is by binding directly to the glycoproteins. So this is your virus, correct? These are the glycoproteins, correct? This is the genetic material present. What are these antibodies going to do? So I'm going to use now a different color. So I'm going to use the yellow color to denote an antibody. The antibody is basically going to connect to this glycoproteins. So all the glycoproteins will be attached or will be completely surrounded by these antibodies. So what happens is the virus becomes inactive, because once the glycoproteins are blocked, it cannot attach to the cell. So there are two ways: either the antibodies will attach to the virus and make it inactive, or they will attach to the receptors present on your cell membrane, okay. And that is how the virus infection will stop. And what will happen is, once all the viruses have been blocked by the antibodies, that is it, then they become useless. And that is when we say that the viruses have died or viruses have left the body. None of that is happening actually, okay. They have all been inactivated by antibodies, okay. So antibodies require time to be produced. So normally when we take vaccination, what happens is we are injecting a very inactive virus inside our body. It cannot cause harm because the harmful proteins of that virus have been removed, okay. And because the virus has entered the body produces antibodies against it. And once the antibodies are produced, so see, Each antibody has a specific shape, and because of that each antibody can attach only to a particular glycoprotein. Okay, it is not that any antibody can attach to any virus. And so once your antibodies have been made, they will remain inside your body throughout your life. If in the future the same virus enters your body, they will be ready and they will attack. Okay, so that is how vaccines work. Anyway, I'll make a separate video on vaccines. So I hope you have understood what viruses are, okay, what is the structure, how they work, and that is going to be the end of this video. Okay, so this was not related to your syllabus, this was just a general video that I made, and I hope you understand. Okay, so thanks a lot.